Alright friends, and today I've got a different style of video for you as promised from when we did the survey. For those of you who watched it, I promised I'd analyze a few of my own games and see if you guys enjoy it. This is the first time I do something like this, if I recall correctly. So you'll forgive me if I sound a bit confused and sluggish, but I don't think I will be. But as time goes on, of course, we shall get better. I have officially won my round in the underused showtime round 10, so I'm going to the winners bracket finals, and today we'll just be going through my games for round 10. I must tell you friends that this was one of the scariest games I've ever played in my entire life. Every matchup from the word go had to be prepared and consistent. The reason I thought that analyzing these games would be appropriate is because I already declared it that Grimsnarl and Thwackey and strategies like that can work in the underused tier and completely take over a game. Strategies that have no business working. And in all three games we shall see that come into fruition. I think that goes to show how unstable the unused metagame is, but enough yapping about. Let's hop straight into the first game. This first game, as you can see, the opponent brought Thwackey and they want to spam grassy terrain. I want to explain something to you as the game goes on or after the result is revealed, but let's bear that in mind. Folks, if you do end up enjoying this type of content and you wish to see more, please let me know by leaving a like and subscribe if you haven't done so already, as we shall be doing a lot more of these. The more of you there are, the more meaningful it is to create the content, but I'm here for each and every one of you, regardless if this video gets 0 views. But let's take it slow, as I knew they would lead off with Arcanine, because usually on these hyper offensive and hyper aggressive playstyles, Arcanine is your stealth rock setter. It deals with opposing extra leads, it deals with sticky web leads, it deals with most other focus sash leads. Is because of extreme speed. If you are versus another focus sash lead, you can hit them hard with one of your stab moves, and Arcanine's stabs are very powerful. Bring them down to their sash and pick them off with extreme speed. Or you could just simply get the safe rocks up and leave a bit of dent into the opponent's Pokemon with extreme speed. But that's why I led off with Zapdos. And looking at the team, I had a feeling that my Skeledirge was going to be E. It checks the Holucha. I knew that if I had Terrasilize, I check Manaphy and I can pseudo check the Revavroom and the Necrozma. I think I played my Skeledirge quite poorly, but I get the lead somewhat correctly because I'm threatening to just bring them down to their focus session. They can KO me. I didn't need Zapdos that much because he wasn't one-hit KOing anything and wasn't outspeeding anything. So, for example, if Revavroom came in versus my Zapdos, I could close combat them, sure, I won't kill them. But then they'll get a free shift gear and then I'm on the back foot. My Zapdos is not that useful. Same with Manaphy. If I come in versus Manaphy and I close combat or Brave Bird, I take chip and then the Ice Beam me, 1 KO. Holucha's faster, I don't kill Necrozma on 1 attack, and I'm Choice Scarf Zapdos. So if I predict wrong and close combat, it is set up opportunities for Necrozma. That's why I led off. I decided that Zapdos was an appropriate sacrifice, and I did close combat as they simply insisted on getting their stealth rocks up. I don't think they needed to do this. I think getting major damage onto Zapdos was a little bit more appropriate. But the first mistake I made was assuming that they were going to extreme speed for a little bit chip, but I think they made the correct call by picking Flare Blitz. The reason why I believe that was the correct call is because it's almost safe to assume that I'm Choice Scarf on the Zapdos. One of the reasons I led off with it. If I had just close combat and killed the thing, they could easily have gone into Necrozma if they wanted to, despite it being Grassy Seed Necrozma on this Grassy Terrain team. And then they could have started Calm Minding, and Necrozma is a pretty bulky and powerful Pokemon. So they made the correct call by clicking Flare Blitz, and they thud themselves into the Rocky Helmet, being deleted. Manaphy came in, and I cannot kill Manaphy in any regard. But I knew I had some checks and answers to this Manaphy. And I knew Manaphy could not kill the useless Zapdos, as I discussed. That's why I decided to Volt Switch in this case. Zapdos came in and they tail glowed. No, they scalded. They wanted to kill my guy. Luckily no burn. If I gotten burnt, that would have been a little more precarious for me. But I didn't get burnt. They went to Thwackey. I predicted that Thwackey would come in. I didn't want to lock myself into close combat. I thought I could deal with Revavroom setting up more so than if Holucha got free setup and I was locked into close combat. Swords Holucha with Taunt can sometimes 1v1 Skeledirge, and it threatens Hydrapple. My Cobalion is dead basically, so I didn't want to lock myself into close combat. That's why I ended up clicking Brave Bird, and that was the correct call. And now they're on a time and they have to play this grassy terrain out properly. Alas, from this position I Brave Bird, and I ended up going down to 1 HP. I was hoping that I was going to KO myself so I could go into an appropriate Pokemon to counter this Necrozma, but I didn't, alas. And now I made a silly play, because usually these kind of Necrozmas run recovery moves, and indeed I did major damage to them, but all for naught. They have moonlighted themselves back to full HP. Gastrodon East came in because I have secret technology here to take on this cheesy style strategies, Clear Smog. Not a very common technique used on Gastrodon, but I packed it. This is an old team I used before. I used this team versus the player known as Mind Knight in a tournament called the Underused Champions League a long time ago when Tornadoes was still legal. But I was recommended by my team at the time that this guy loves to use cheese style strategies, and it was my first game in the big leagues, so I thought, let me play a little bit safe. That's why I had this piece of technology. But luckily I had Clear Smoke. And this is specially defensive Gastrodon, by the way, or somewhat specially, mostly specially defensive Gastrodon, but we'll see what ends up transpiring. I reset all the stats, no more defense raise, meaning I can kill this Necrozma a little bit more easily. I end up earth powering, doing no type of damage, and this grassy terrain is running out, so that limits Holucha. Just Holucha, really. I'll keep resetting these stats. We'll skip a few turns, I believe. No, let's just keep it going. They keep calm minding. I recover. I'm at 100% HP. They Photon Geyser, and I Clear Smog again, so I can live the next Photon Geyser. And at this point, I recovered. I'm not at full HP this time, so the Photon Geyser is 2-hit KOing my guy, which is insane to me to see that. And now I have to run in fear. They have 5 more Photon Geysers left. That's something I should have paid attention to, that their Photon Geysers are running out. But nonetheless, I'm immune to it, so I took half the Photon Geysers. I U-turned. That was a mistake. That was an absolute mistake in my opinion. I should have just U-turned out on the Necrozma that was staring me down, because what were they going to do? Allow me to get a free attack on them? A Terra Bug free attack on them potentially? No. U-turning out would have been the safe bet, so I would have U-turned out into the versus the Holucha, and life would have been a lot easier, I believe. I could have even gone into Cobalion looking at it and got my Stealth Rocks up for free, but that didn't end up transpiring. Game on though, I went to Skeledirge, and because they are still possessing a grassy seed, I take heavily reduced damage from acrobatics because it's at half power. Or regular power, not double power. So Skeledirge is a complete wall to this Holucha. And I end up making a blunder here at this point in time, because why would I want to Will-O-Wisp a Holucha on an offensive team? It's usually substitute, Terra Fire, or Taunt. And indeed I fall for the Taunt. I could have Torch Song and at least gotten myself ahead of the game, 2-KOing the guy and still being at a little bit more HP. I made the game a lot more scary for me at this point in time, bring my Skeledirge under half the amount of health. But alas, I got +2 on every stat, and that was good to see. I ended up terrestrializing Dark because I felt that my Skeledirge is defensive enough to take on any Scalds that Manaphy can throw off. Manaphy has only a base 100 special defense, or special attack stat, base 100 across the board, so I believed my heart of hearts that a special defense investment that I put onto the Skeledirge could take on any attack in that base 100. And indeed it was so. I started slacking off tremendously. 29% chip all the time. They have leftovers luckily for them, so every time I recover it's good for them to get some HP back. But alas, they keep scalding and keep scalding. Eventually Scald's going to burn me, but we play this back and forth. I keep slacking. I believe in my heart of hearts I had to be as healthy as possible to take on the Revavroom. And as the game is going on, we'll give it a pause right here, because if you look at their last two, Revavroom and what's this guy's name? Necrozma. Yeah, I think it's because I played my Cobalion and my Gastrodon quite poorly. That's why things transpired the way they did, but something worth noting. because Scaladirge completely counters that Necrozma. Eventually they do end up getting the burn. I slack off, and I keep burning through a few more slack offs just to make sure I'm at as high amount of HP as possible. And eventually I take out their Manaphy with my +2 special attacks there. They go to Revel Room, and this is a part I could not believe with my own eyes. I was so devastated to see that Hookshot landed first and foremost, and it KO'd my Scaladirge. I'm not used to seeing Scaladirge getting 1-hit KO'd by a Revel Room in any capacity. But that was the nail in the coffin for me, I believe. I was still hopeful that my low kicks could beat my Necrozma, but let's see what ends up happening. The nice thing, I was expecting them to set up with shift gear, that's why I clicked slack off with my Scaladirge, but alas, it didn't come to pass. And I knew that if I could hit this guy, low kicks could always revenge with Sucker Punch, Mind Games and whatnot. So they ended up terrorizing into a ground tap, which is a mistake, so they gave me hope and allowed me the chance to do good damage unto them. And they shift gear up, which is also a big mistake in some regard. Because there's actually no point in shift gear. Actually, not a mistake, it's just a play that they could have made. Hit me with the Temper Flare, and they take the Rocky Helmet chip, so that puts them in range of low kicks as first impressions, which I did go for. And here is the point of contention. I'm spamming knockoff. I didn't expect it to do this little. I'm spamming knockoff. I didn't bother calculating if they have Heat Wave or move to hit low kicks with. I was assuming it was Earth Power the whole day, so you shouldn't assume that to be the case. And they bluffed it so long that I fell into their trap, but U-turn is a stronger attack because I've already knocked off the item. So I should be spamming U-turn. Every bit of chip counts when you're fighting against a bulky team or bulky Pokemon. Spamming U-turn and going into Hydrapple or something and forcing them to either Calm Mind or do something dastardly like waste one of their Photon Geezers or something like that. But alas, it didn't come to pass because I was believing that I was going to wall them being Earth Power at the end of the day. They end up moonlighting, and that was very annoying to see. They have so many moonlights, even though recovery moves got nerfed. The reason it's taking so little is because of Prism Armor. That Prism Armor is really making it stick around. I U-turn, it's at 9%, folks, can you believe it? And they end up clicking Moonlight. 4 more Moonlights, another Moonlight they click. I clear Smog to get rid of the stats, which is a mistake, I believe. They Photon Geyser for the 1-hit KO. Oh, not the 1-hit KO, but they still ended up Photon Geyser. I don't want them to get the boost in their stats. Heat Wave finally finishes it off, and then I realized I could be finished in this town. First impression is the strongest attack I have. That's why I should have swapped it out back and forth a bit more than spamming knockoff. Even in this position, I should just U-turn. If I had U-turn there, to give myself a chance on them heat waving, I might have been able to save the game with another U-turn. But that's neither here nor there. They killed my low kicks in one attack, which is obvious beyond measure. I click Fickle Beam, don't go all out, and that is the nail in the coffin. They even recovered for the last time. That Necrozma that was dead ends up 1-hit KOing a Hydrapple. Well, actually not 1-hit KOing, but it still did a lot. If I went all out there as well, I could have maybe survived. But it doesn't matter. That Necrozma ended up sweeping a team that had no business sweeping. I had Clear Smoke, I had Unaware, I had bulky physical walls, I had a Choice Scarf for faster. What a difficult task I had to perform. But that leads us into the second game. Zarude and Grimmsnarl were in the survey. Let me show you guys something special. I suspected that they would leave Grimmsnarl. I mean, what else were they going to do versus my team? Set up your screens and go and win the game. That's pretty much what their team is telegraphing. It's just such a powerful playstyle, even though it's telegraphed that there's going to be weakness policy Latios, Shift Gear, Dragon Dance, Swords Dance, Low Kicks, and potentially Sash Extra Roll. All these pieces fit together so perfectly. It's still a powerful strategy to employ. I lived with the Zarude because Zarude, I calculated, I did use the calculator, I won't lie. But I calculated that Spirit Break is not a 2-hit KO. And I calculated that after a few bulk ups, I can outmuscle this Grimmsnarl. So they have to decide between getting screens up or attacking me. And I believed in my heart of hearts that they would have preferred to get screens up. And thus I led off with Zarude, which is immune to taunt, so I could start setting up freely. Also thought that I can acquire maybe a bulk up and a trailblaze and put them in panic mode. And as you'll see, they ended up getting a reflect first. I bulked up. They can't taunt me because I'm a dark type. Then they ended up going into Latios. I bulked up again, so now I'm +2/+2. That's full panic mode. And usually these Latios are slower, and I did calculate that knockoff kills it. I thought about it, like, I'm +2. This is basically a neutral knockoff. It doesn't matter how bulky you're running your Latios. I made it max bulk. Knockoff is going to kill you. Not 100% guarantee, but it was in my favor to kill them. And thus, I did end up KOing a giant threat. Weakness policy Latios. Can you see how madly aggressive this guy has become? And this is what I was talking about in that survey video, which you should check out. I'll leave it in the description down below, where light clay should be taken a look at in this tier. I mean, it's not fair that they can just get a reflect up, choose which screen they want to do, and then parting shot out, and in this case hard swap into something. This was a mistake by their part though. They could have gone into low kicks or somebody else really, anybody else really, but I guess they didn't, they overestimated the bulk that they were carrying and the power of Zarud. So lucky me, I got lucky. Now they end up making the correct call, going to low kicks. I knock off because I first assumed this was SD sucker punch, knockoff and to protect you from other low kicks. But then I had to take a gander and thought, if I lose my Zarud at this stage of the game, I might be in a problematic position, because who's gonna make Grimmsnarl's life a little bit more miserable? Nobody else really. And then I'm playing a game where all these guys are gonna look to Swords Dance for free, and I've got no other appropriate setup sweeper at this stage of the game. So they Swords Dance, and I thought at this stage, I just have to be certain they're not Leech Life. And I went hard into Kabbalan because Kabbalan's a 4 times resist, so it managed to take that attack. My Kabbalan is Iron Defense, so I can end up living whatever this guy wants to go for. And they finally decided to swap out as an Iron Defense for the 3rd time, which was a mistake in my opinion. I should just body press them into the next dimension, bringing the X-Roll to the Sash, but they made a bad play terrestrializing into a Ghost type. The power of these offensive teams is largely based on terrestrialize. Flipping the script, you know, when the opponent is about to KO you and answer your sweeper, you flip the script and kill their answer, and then nobody can stop you. They've just ruined one of their secret weapons, but I think they did this because Iron Defense Body Press cannot really touch X-Grill in any capacity, so it's basically a sitting duck. They ended up Earthquaking, and the Reflect turns are done, and then they got Stealth Rocks up, which was another blunder on their part. They are a fast-paced team. You don't have time to play this slow and like Earthquake something that's so defensive, waste your Terrestrialize, and then starts throwing Stealth Rocks down on the floor. Especially when you got no more Ghosts after this X-Grill goes. But I went to Zarud because knockoff is free versus this thing, versus the entire team. They went to low kicks. I bulked up because I knew that the X-Grill can't touch me after a couple of bulk ups. So I ended up bulking up. And now I thought I could let it rip. I terrestrialized Fairy, bulked up again, because what's this guy gonna do? They ended up Leech Living, which is another mistake. And I think I got the 3rd bulk up. Yes, I did indeed. And they ended up Swords Dancing, which is, I think, the incorrect call, but what else were they gonna do though at this point in time? I've accrued enough bulk ups. And you all know that Zarud has such a high HP and decent defensive stats. So these bulk ups, they will count in the defensive department. Knockoff a resisted attack is a 2-KO nevertheless. They Swords Dance because the Leech Life was going to bounce off at Zarud's big bulk. Look how a little +3 Sucker Punch did to me. Almost nothing. That critical hit didn't matter. They're gone. I'm chomping on leftovers. Grimmsnarl comes in and Grimmsnarl can barely touch me. They made the correct call by taunting because I was going to just click bulk up all day every day because this guy can't really touch me. But alas, I can't do that no longer. I'd start trailblazing all day every day. And I believe that their last move was a Spirit Break instead of Parting Shot. So they taunted, and this time I'm not going to fall for these antics again. And we're back at full HP, and my Zarud is flying through the sky with its speed. Nobody's going to 1-KO me, and nobody is going to... Look at this Life Orb Gung Shot. Half my HP, not much. Luckily they got the poison, so the game became a little scarier, but like I was saying, nobody's going to outspeed me after a single setup move, so that's why Zarud was just a menace to their team. And the X-Grill came in. I was very surprised by this part, but as you can see, I've managed to acquire so many bulk ups. Earthquake, it might have made a difference if they did Earthquake. Instead, they decided to rock Tomb for some odd reason. What would I have done if they had Earthquaked? I possessed Conch Elder, could have just Thunder Punched for Alligator, I guess. Thunder Punch into Mark Punch, I could have Body Pressed him or Iron Defense alongside them and then Body Pressed him for the KO. So that was my game plan. But there's Sash, the poison is racking up way too slow. And for Alligator comes in behind screens, no ways. I knocked them off 6-0 to this opponent. That's just the power of Zarude. They played their screens not the best, but that's just the power of Zarude. I really do believe that Grimstone needs to be using Parting Shot. But it just needs Parting Shot. You need to get those guys in as fast as possible. You don't have time to dance around with your screen turns. But maybe I'm wrong. Final game we played, because it was a best of 3. And again, the opponent is just going mad in for offense. Their team is not that good. Choice Scarf Latios, which I initially thought I'm using the exact same team because I didn't have anything drastic prepared. But the opponent doesn't care that they just got invalidated. They just continue with their offensive onslaught. And it's obvious. Lead Mew, Tail Glow Manaphy, Victory Dance with Wide Lens, Glare Superior, might have screens, Shift Gear River Room and Swords Dance, Low Kicks. Easy, all day, every day. I led off with Peasantipity. The reason being is because I was a bit afraid and nervous for some purpose. Because if this was Misty Explosion Mew, there's a chance it could have 1-hit KO'd my Zarude, even though Zarude is faster and quite bulky. I didn't want to put Zarude in such a precarious position where I get one bulk up, they get stealth works up. I attempt a second bulk up, they Misty Explode, and I'm at 2 HP. And then Low Kicks comes in for free. That's my entire game plan done. They've got hazards up, my Zarude is dead. Not a good time. But I led Peasantipity because I could live any attack and I could more often than not threaten them with the Toxic Chain proccing because of the move I clicked, which was Beat Up. And Beat Up goes through and it hits 6 times all day every day, so the chance that Toxic Chain will be procced is quite high. And I'm immune to poison because of myself being a poison type, and simply putting this guy on a timer was good enough for me. At this point in time, I thought, I'll just let it rip. I'm getting bored. I'm getting tired of seeing these hyper-offensive team styles. And I was pleasantly surprised and pleased to see Will-O-Wisp. That indicated to me that it was probably going to be no attacking Mew. But that jig should have been up when the red card was held up. But I made a serious mistake in the coming turns. The Toxic is racking up. That's another reason why I want the Toxic racking up, is because I can just stay inverse with Zarude instead of having to punish this Mew in any way. I could set up for free as this guy starts killing himself slowly. But I got the second bulk up, and this was a mad idea because I should have recognized that it could be Taunt Mew. I was so afraid to miss the explosion a minute ago, and now I'm not worried about any other attacks. I'm suddenly not worried to miss the explosion. And why am I bulking up so much when they have Victory Dance, Sui and Lilligant, and which resists both my attacks? Wasn't that a obvious thing that could have happened? Indeed it was. But let's see how the game progresses. So I did play this very, very poorly, in my opinion. I'm taunted here, so I was assuming I'm in a jungle heal. I was feeling the heat, I was feeling so in love with myself. Assuming the taunt's gonna be shrugged off, I'm a jungle heal and this guy's dead. I'm gonna get 10,000 bulk ups and they're finished. Now I'm forced out. And they made the correct call by Victory Dancing. But the only reason I went into Latios, I looked at this position for a hot minute or two. Okay, not that long, but I looked at the position with Lilligant versus Zarude. I looked at it and I thought, I'm burned. I'm gonna do negligible damage to them. I can't go into Conch Elder because that forces me to Terrasilize. And if I do Terrasilize and Iron Defense, they can just swap out into maybe Superior or Manaphy and then do this whole song and dance at another time. And that would have been a difficult position to play. I thought my only chance was to actually Terrasilize with Latios on a potential Ice Spinner or Triple Axle coming in and kill them like that. That's what I thought was going to transpire. Then I thought, if they're going to drop their defenses and maybe predict me to Terrasilize Steel, then I shall I'm willing to sacrifice my Latios to the close combat. That's what I was thinking. So I went to Latios. I also thought I can bluff that this is a choice Scarf Latios, especially since it will not see any leftovers recovery. And that's exactly what they ended up falling for, assuming it was choice Scarf. I mean, Lilligant's defenses are so low that even choice Scarf Latios will threaten it for 1 KO, even if it's terrestrialized. But they went to the Superior, assuming I'm choice Scarf. They didn't really have another good call to make. If they went low kicks, I don't think they wanted to give their low kicks up that easily to a Draco Meteor. But alas, lost a Purge, and I end up 2-hit KOing the Superior, and I think they still believe I'm choice Scarf, which is why they ended up switching hard on the low kicks. I lost the Purge again. Now I think they thought that they truly have a free setup opportunity. Superior was the mid ground, I believe, that they made to check what kind of Latios this was, and they assumed incorrectly and assumed Scarf, which they could have calculated for. So it's bad mistake on the opponent's part. But so far so good for me. I've got my Pokemon up, I've threatened heavy damage on one of their guys, I've been given a lifeline versus the Victory Dancer, and I bluff the Scarf and land the Draco Meteor. No more low kicks. It was obviously an offensive low kick, so they were not killing me with any attack. Manaphy came in and I had answers. Pheasantip is one of the most specially bulky Pokemon in this tier. I ended up going for their Fast and Eye, of course. No burn on the Scald, and I went for the 100% accurate Toxic Chain beat up. And I get the Toxic, which is heavily skewed in my favor. So this Manaphy is on a timer. I can take it on, and they have to 1-hit KO my guys, otherwise it's going to be a tough situation for them. I went into Conk, which is Assault Vested, so I knew I would love the attack as I went for Scald. I advertised a while ago Assault Vest Conk Elder is the in thing. Luckily the Toxic is enough to drag them down. Lilligant came in, and let's give it a pause. Well, they've revealed Dragon, Ghost, Terrestrialize, and Victory Dance. And my Conkeldurr is Iron Fist with Assault Vest as discussed. Not Flame Orb or Guts by any stretch of the imagination. If I had Drain Punch this thing, that would have been a devastating blow. But I Ice Punch because that was a super effective sting. I want to show you guys how squishy Lilligant is. +1 defense to a non-stab ice attack. The Ice Punch, not like Ice Claw, Ice Maul, or Ice Tackle, or Ice Hammer. None of those moves exist except Ice Hammer. A weak Ice Punch. Still did quite a number of damage. But they get the free Victory Dance, and I was praying for a freeze at this time because who am I gonna go to stop this thing? The Cobalion that I advertised the previous game cannot touch this Lilligant in any way. I'm Iron Defense, Body Press, Thunder Wave, Stealth, Rock. That is bad for me. The other out I did possess was maybe going to Donphan and hit them with knockoff and hope it KOs, but it's +2 defenses in all stats, and Donphan wasn't invested in its attacking stats, but alas. They went for the second dance and Ice Punch again, 27% to a +2, so it's low enough. No priority on my team, that's dangerous. Deadly stuff. No Scarfer, also dangerous and stupid. So this is a very poorly built team that I use. Very poorly built. This team used to have an Assault Vest Tornadus, and it was a tournament team for a specific opponent, but that's neither here nor there. Poor built team, no speed control to speak of. I had to bluff a choice Scarf. Anyways, they killed me with Ice Spinner. As you can see, I tanked. I went into a deep calculation. I was calculating if I go the route and I Terrestrialize Fairy and they knock me, and they end up clicking close combat, how much damage does it do, and how much does a burnt knockoff do to +2 Lilligant? I calculated that a burnt knockoff has a chance to KO, but the insane part was that close combat just KOs the root straight up. +2 close combat from Hustle Lilligant, 1-hit KOs the root from full. So there was no point in doing that. I thought Latios, I'll bluff the Scarf, close combat KOs. I thought about going into Donphan and Terrestrializing, close combat KOs. The only chance that I saw that I had was Terrestrializing Cobalion and hoping that they click close combat as the attack. Because this Cobalion possesses Thunder Wave. And again, I was crossing my fingers at this point, friends. I've recognized that I'm actually lost. That's why I tanked. There's no out. I have to hope and pray. But when you recognize and accept the fact that you have to hope and pray, you breathe in and out, keep your mind calm, you accept what you need to do, and you go for it. And that's exactly what I did. The only chance out in this position was Thunderwave paralyzes the guy. I slow them down. I hard swap into Latios. and hope that they get fully paralyzed, otherwise they're quicker than I am ever going to be. And then I kill them with Luster Purge and sweep the game hopefully. And let's see what happened. Obalion came in. I terrestrialized Fairy and loved the attack as discussed. Defenses dropped down a little bit and Thunderwave landed, a miracle. But I can't touch them. Hard into Latios. Even if they fired off close combat, I was dead. I was dead. Maybe Zarud could win with the knockoff, but Superior would have won the game then from that position. But they ended up getting fully paralyzed. Luster Purged. Threat is dismantled. But it's not game over. I've got a huge advantage. But the Superior is quicker than my entire team. Folks, I want to tell you guys something. If ever you are staring down a Pokemon that outspeeds your entire team, never, well not never, but rules are sometimes meant to be broken, but under most circumstances, do not give them a free chance to set up in any capacity. So if I had swapped out, like into Zarud for example, and not done my homework and calculated that 2 Leaf Storms will destroy Zarud because of the Stealth Rocks and Spikes and the burn, and I was just trying to, predict glare and whatnot. If they had gotten the Leaf Storm and killed my Zarud, they're quicker than everybody. 2 Leaf Storms and they threaten to potentially 1-hit KO my Latios as well after another swap in onto the rocks. Obalion is way too low and it doesn't resist. Donphan will eat the rocks and spikes, so I can't afford to give this guy a free Leaf Storm. And that's exactly why I allowed them to glare me. I became fully paralyzed. Thank goodness it was this turn. They ended up getting a Reflect up. The Reflect was a good idea because personally I would have Leaf Storm just to try and, fish for paralysis and sweep the game with the guy. But they were banking it all on Rivervroom. Looks like their favorite Pokemon because they use this Rivervroom in every single game. They wanted their Rivervroom to resist Earthquake. They go into Rivervroom knowing that they're not going to get 1-hit KO'd by Luster Purge because it's not Specs. They shift gear. Luckily, I ended up getting the first Luster Purge off, popping that balloon, ensuring that I can Earthquake the guy. At this point, they can kill everybody. I'm not Rocky Helmet on anyone. So they don't have to aim for Gunk Shot missing. They could potentially just high horsepower or something. But they ended up making the correct idea, going for a second shift gear. I don't think that would have killed Donphan in any stretch of the imagination, but I ended up not getting fully paralyzed and Luster Purge secures the victory and secures my placement in the winner's bracket final of this underused Showtime tournament. There we have it, folks. A different style of video for you indeed. If you did end up enjoying as discussed, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you have not done so already, as we shall be doing a lot more of these. Until next time, folks, we'll be U-turning out. Thanks for watching.